Welcome to the SheBreathes Soul Stories podcast. I am your host, Jen Gulbrand. And I believe that our most powerful stories are the ones that we're often afraid to share. But here we encourage and we embrace that. Inspired by the SheBreathes Soul Stories book, this is a space that I've created so that you can breathe and listen and connect with the moments that make us human. I'm here in the virtual studio today with Scarlett Stanhope, the Biz Hippie. I love that name. And what we do know about Scarlett is that she works with coaches to transform their relationship to money and help them step into the next level of abundance, which sounds so good to me. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited for our conversation today.
Yes, as am I. So, Scarlett, tell us a little bit about the work that you do and why you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so, it ties so much into my own story, which is why I'm excited to talk about it on your show, since it's all about the stories that, make us human and make us who we are. And so I am an abundance coach. And so what I do is I help coaches, healers, entrepreneurs transform their relationship with money so that they can live lives that they love and pursue their businesses with confidence.
I
And the
love that.
reason, yeah, and it's so important because the reason why I do this is so often money can be the thing that holds us back from really pursuing our dreams, putting ourselves out there, living the lives we want to live, doing the things we want to do. And money can feel like it's controlling our lives. And I believe that it's possible to live thriving, fulfilling, more free lives starting right now. And that instead of money holding us back from doing that, instead, money can be the thing that empowers us to live
Mm.
these lives starting right now.
So true. And I mean, I love everything about that. And I believe just in my own experience doing the work that I do and working with so many people in this field, this heart-centered work, right, that we do, that we can very easily get tripped up by our money mindset and the stories and the narratives that we have in our head about it. So I love that. Well, so speaking of stories, tell us a little bit about your journey and the story that you would like to share with our listeners today.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe my story is one of a common ones where my whole entire life was really driven by this idea of success. And so growing up, I was really a type A perfectionist, high achiever type of person. So growing up, I actually went to boarding school for 7 years from the ages of 7 to 14, second
Wow.
grade to eighth grade. And I was in a space where I was surrounded by constant authority, right? So I
Mm.
was living at school full time. I had teachers, I had house parents. I was just in a space where there was always these authorities around me that wasn't my parents, right? And I could really be my imperfect child self around my mom when I was little, right? I could be a kid, I could be imperfect, I could, get angry and
Yeah.
mess up and do things wrong. But when I was at school, I adopted this personality of a good child and a perfect
Mm.
kid. And so I got straight A's all through school. I never got in trouble. I tried to be on everybody's good side, including all the teachers and all the students, like just wanting to be that, not draw too much attention, just be perfect. And what really happened was I built this whole identity crafted from this societal idea of success. And that
Yeah.
led to a lot of stress when I was growing up, right? Like I was an 18-year-old I was an 8-year-old with migraine headaches because of
Oh,
just the constant underlying stress and pressure of doing good, being a good student and doing it right and being perfect. And this bled into my teenage years and my young adulthood as I continued to work hard, do really well at school through high school and then beginning college. And at the same time, I also was quick to started working officially and consistently by the time I was 16 in the restaurant industry and work my way up through that company that I was working at and started managing these restaurants by the time I was 18. In fact, I confused people like when customers would come in because they couldn't tell if I was 13 years old or 30 years old because they'd look at me and be like, "You look so young," and yet I'm wearing 4-inch heels, full face makeup, false eyelashes, contact lenses, and running the restaurant until 2 a.m. every single weekend while
Wow.
going to school full time, while managing my 3.9 GPA, getting my bachelor's in business management, accounting, and finance. And all of this effort looked so good on paper, right? I was doing life really, really well. I was getting paid decent money for my age compared to other people my age that I was talking to. I had a fancier job title than other people my age. I was getting my bachelor's degree. I was getting good grades. I had no student loans or no credit card debt at all because I just paid for it all out of pocket. I was really strategic with my savings. I had $30,000 in savings by the time I was 20 years old. So everything looked great on paper, but at the same time, I was unfulfilled. And
Right.
not only was I unfulfilled, I was actually like a zombie living my life and walking through my life, disconnected, disassociated. My life didn't have meaning or purpose. And I didn't know who I was or what I wanted because I had just been chasing this idea of success and who I
Right.
thought I should be and what I thought I should be doing. And that led me down a really, really harsh, painful downward spiral
Yeah.
of, yeah, feeling depressed, feeling suicidal, not knowing who I was or what I wanted, finding myself in harmful relationships, disconnecting from friends, disconnecting from family, and just feeling really alone. And I had to hit a really hard rock bottom to wake up and realize, oh, wait a second, I'm sitting here waiting for life to start, waiting for me to magically feel like, oh, now I can finally start living because I've done it. I've checked all the boxes. I crossed this invisible finish line. But the truth is that I am already living right now, and
Yeah.
life is waiting for me to start living it. And it's up to me to be the one in control of my life and do things differently and choose to live the life that I actually want to live. And that really began my self-discovery journey, which started the path that led me to where I am today.
That's amazing. And you say it's a story that's common, and I think parts of it in terms of the fact that we literally we're on autopilot for a good part of our lives. Um,
Hmm.
Many of us, it takes us right into our 50s, right? So I want to first applaud you for figuring this out early because I think that this is what I'm seeing now with upcoming generations is that you guys are getting it, getting the message earlier, which is so important because otherwise we walk around, like you said, and you feel like you're playing a role in a movie that's not really written for you. Right. But we
Hmm.
just keep going through the motions. And so much of this is our programming, our socialization, the expectations that are being put on us by external forces, right? Intentionally or unintentionally. But we just feel like we have to rise to those expectations, regardless of how aligned it feels with our soul. And I think it's when we get to, like you said, you get to that rock bottom place and you're like, wait a minute, this is not, this is not meant for me. Right. And when you get there and you decide you need to make a shift, that's when I think everything changes. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And so that led you to the work that you're doing today. And you were able to blend all of this background, your business degree, your own experiences, and your, I think, probably attraction to helping people find joy and in a connection with money and in abundance. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because it took a while for me to rediscover myself and who I was. It took me a
Of
while to
course.
climb out of that hole. But then once I did, so I had been really in business mode for a while, right? I was in the
Right.
business kind of over masculine
Of
type of
course.
living. And then 1 month after getting my bachelor's degree in business management, accounting, and finance, I got my first life coaching certification. And I just like rocket shipped down this other path and realized, oh my
Right.
gosh, this is what I'm going to do. And I started with my business. I went through yoga teacher training and started teaching yoga classes. I started attending a lot of retreats and
Love
continuing
that.
to grow my network and also continue on my own personal growth journey. And then flash forward, I realized that I could really combine all of these
Yes.
aspects together, that it didn't have to
Absolutely.
be either or, either I'm
Right.
all business over masculine mode or all hippie, feminine flow, life coach yoga mode, but
Love
instead,
it.
I can bring both of these together because when you combine both these aspects, that's where the real transformation, that's where the real impact comes
Agree.
from.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. Being 35 years in corporate America, 21 of those having my own, my own business and starting to realize much later in life than you did, this sort of, uh, imbalance, right? And then trying to figure out how to reemerge right at that point in my life where I could balance the business experience and knowledge with my love for holistic way of being and yoga and meditation and mindfulness and breath work. And to your point, for our listeners, we talk a lot about energy, right? And our
Mhm.
masculine doing energy versus our feminine flow. And we need both of those. We need that integration, right? We don't want to lean into one or the other. So I love that you found a way to integrate both of those worlds. And I mean, because if you think about it, we're very multidimensional humans. We're not just one
Yes.
thing. So I think this is the wave of the future. This is where we're going. Is we have a better understanding now that you can be really kick ass in business, but by understanding how do you use your energy, right? How do you find more ease and balance between the doing and the being? And I think this is where I'm hoping that we're going now with sort of people understanding that it's not woo woo. It's literally these are tools that you can use to continue to be extremely successful, however you want to define that in your life. Yeah,
Yes,
I love
exactly.
it.
And
I
that
love it.
balance is so powerful. And I use it for my own life, right? How I
Yeah,
choose to live my life. But it's also a perfect reflection of the journey of transforming your relationship with
of
money and
course.
feeling empowered with your money and stepping into abundance. There is that balance of the tangible side of
Mhm.
transforming your relationship with money and also the intangible side. And
Right?
so when you're like taking these steps to transform your money so you can live your best life, your most free life, you get to do the internal work of healing your scarcity, healing your wounds, healing
Mhm.
your stories around money, changing
Yeah,
your money mindset and stepping into the energy and the mindset of abundance. And at the
yes.
same time, there's the whole tangible piece of money is a tangible tool that we
Yeah.
use in this reality to live our lives. And so learning to manage and track and be intentional and conscious with how you use this money. And when you combine this tangible transformation with the internal
Hmm.
transformation, that's when you totally can transform and uplevel your life in a really big way.
Oh, it's so exciting. I mean, I can't wait till we meet outside of this podcast to learn more because I feel like there's so many people in my world, myself included, who will benefit from the work that you do. So I'm just super grateful for you, and what you've created. I think it's a beautiful blend of all of these things that we're talking about. So what inspired you to say yes to me when I invited you on the show to share some of these deeper parts of your story? Because it's not always easy to talk about the bumps, right? And the things that we've gone through. So, what inspired you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we all in our lives have ups and downs and
Yeah.
highs and lows. And I truly believe that those lows are part of our path of progress. Sometimes
Yes.
there's this idea that if things aren't going well all the time, if I'm not happy all the time, if I don't feel good all the time, then something's wrong, then I'm not moving forward, then I'm not making progress. But in life, there really are these highs and lows and those rock bottoms and those challenges and those misaligned moments. That's what we learn from. That's what
Absolutely.
expands us so we can step into a deeper level of alignment, can step into a better version of our lives. And so it's so important to share all aspects of our story so that one, people can all see that we're not alone on this
So
journey,
true.
that no matter how perfect your life looks on paper or what life
Or on
circumstance,
social media.
right, on social media, or what circumstances you were born into,
Right.
everybody faces challenges, and it's all part of this journey and this human
Mm.
experience.
It's so true. And, this is why I do this show and why I wrote my books, because I feel like, I don't feel like, I know that we as human beings tend to sort of hide behind some of these experiences because we think we're safer there. Like, if we show our vulnerability, people are going to judge us or we're not going to belong. When in reality, what we're learning, what I've learned through my own life experiences and through this sort of unraveling is that when we can go deeper with one another, when we can share our raw, vulnerable stories and our life experiences, and we can understand that they don't define us, they inform us and they help us expand, as you just mentioned. When we can do that, we not only start to heal our own wounds, but we connect with other people in an incredible way, and we promote more empathy and compassion, and we make these connections with people that help them to feel a sense of belonging, because I
Mhm.
think one of our biggest challenges is how isolated and alone people feel. And so this idea of storytelling, this is what's behind this entire movement, is when you reach out with somebody to someone and you share a deeper part of yourself and you connect in a more conscious, meaningful way, amazing things start to happen for you, for the other person. And it's just like this beautiful ripple effect. So um, I love that. I love that you are here today revealing this personal story. How has it impacted you in terms of your own sense of empowerment by sharing some of this stuff?
Yeah. And, it's interesting because back in the day, before I had done my own personal growth journey, I hid all the
Mm,
imperfect aspects of myself,
of course.
in order to be my perfect self or put on this perfect facade mask. I had to change who I was, manipulate who I was, hide what I was really thinking, hide what I was really feeling. And then if I did make mistakes, or there was something wrong, I had to hide that too because otherwise I wouldn't be perfect. And
Right.
that's part of what led me down to this downward spiral was me isolating from other people, not being honest, not admitting that I was struggling, not asking for help, not asking for support, and really just feeling like I was all alone and that there was nothing that I could do about it. And
Right.
so learning to recognize my story for myself has
Mm,
been really powerful because it allowed me to admit to myself that I'm not perfect, I'm human, and that
yes.
that's even better. And then to share my story has just peeled out all of those layers of wounding and not good enoughness, and instead I get to use this as my message that inspires others on this same journey, to support others on their journey, and really spread the message that it's possible. It's possible to live a life you love, no matter where you're starting from or what your life looks like. And I've been through it too.
It makes such a difference, right? And I think it has such a potential to not only inspire other people, which it clearly does, but it also gives them permission to, come out with their stuff too, right? When you
Hmm.
start to open up to somebody, they feel more safe to do the same. And that's what, really fosters, I think, um, a more compassionate environment, which is something we need a lot more of today, right?
Yeah,
With everything.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't have the capacity or the interest to have many surface level conversations nowadays.
Oh, I
I
feel you.
I really just want to have real, authentic conversations with other human
Yeah.
beings about who they are, what you're struggling with, what you're through, what you're working towards, what you're creating, what you care about, what you're passionate about, and
Yeah.
who you really are on a deep level. That's the kind of conversations that I care about.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, which is why we're doing this podcast. And haven't you found that when you do that, it actually strengthens your relationships and your
Oh, yes,
connections? Yeah, tell me about
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest ways that I've found this connection has been from attending retreats and just being in settings with other people for an extended period of time, away from your everyday environment, away from technology and work, and just having that space and time to really connect and share and be open and honest and vulnerable, and to be going through your own healing experience, your own intentional experience in that space, and to feel fully supported in that setting. That's some of the biggest transformation
Oh,
that I've received, is just putting myself and being in those environments to really deeply hear and connect with other people.
I love that. I mean, that's what, as you know, that's the work that I'm doing now this year. I have my first retreat coming up in a few weeks in
Mm,
the Azores for precisely that reason, because I've been doing this work at the center for years, for 4 hours at a time or a day long thing. And I was seeing the value of bringing people together in an immersive container for 4, 5, 6 days at a time, because it gives them the time, the space, and the comfort level to do their own work, but also be holding the space for one another. It is a very transformative experience. And so I love that you're doing that. And I'm excited to be offering those containers as well.
hmm
So, yeah, I definitely would encourage people to, find a community like that where they feel like they can just show up, to your point, authentically and go a little deeper with each other. It makes a world of difference. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
what would you say to some of our listeners who might be listening here and thinking, wow, I have a story that I would like to share? How would you encourage them to show up a little bit more vulnerably for themselves with others?
Yeah, and I believe that we can start to do this in small ways, and it can come down to the simple questions that we ask other people in our day-to-day lives and in our day-to-day conversations, right? We
Mm.
walk around our lives and we just say, "Hi, how's it going?" Or get on a phone call, "How are you?" And the default answer is, "Good."
I'm
There's
fine.
no right,
Yeah.
there's nothing real that comes from that question because it's just a default societal response. Even if people aren't doing well, they're still going to say, "I'm doing okay," or, you're not really
Mm.
getting to the core of how actually are you, or tell me something about yourself or your life. And so
Yes,
even asking a different question,
I
which is,
agree.
"Hey, tell me the highlight of your week," that totally changes the conversation, and it gives space to have a real conversation for that other person to reflect and realize, wow, that actually is the highlight of my week, and then share
Yeah.
it with you. And so I think initiating different
Yes.
conversations and the ways that you speak with other people is one way to bring that forward, because then that will be reflected back to you in those conversations. And then also, how can you show up with a little bit more honesty and authenticity in the conversations that you're having? If someone asks you, "How are you doing?" taking that extra second to pause
Mm.
and see for yourself, what is the real answer, and
Yeah.
how could I share a little bit more of that in this setting?
I love that. Just to do that check-in with yourself. That so much of that is about being present, right?
hmm
And mindful in the things that we talk about. And I also think this idea of feeling seen and heard and really valued is so important, and a skill that we could all work to improve, right? When you're with a friend or meeting somebody for the first time, to really mindfully listen to them, to ask those questions, to listen, to hold that space for each other. It's really not a difficult thing to do. It just takes that moment, that mindfulness to be there, right? And I love that. I don't think I know that we would all benefit and create a much more kinder, compassionate world if we could just take those few extra seconds to bring ourselves in that space with each other. So I think that's a beautiful, beautiful offering and suggestion for people. So I highly recommend you all practice that this week.
Yeah, and then see what happens. See what kind
Yeah,
of responses you get. It's going to spark some very different conversations than the ones we're typically used to.
it sure is. And I love that. That's beautiful advice. And I hope everyone rises to that challenge and puts that into practice this week. Well, I am like so honored to have had you here on the show. I know we try to keep our show to a half hour so that we can be conscious of people's time, but I am very excited to learn more about the work that you're doing. How can people get in touch with you to learn more about the Biz Hippie and your offerings?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of different ways. One is you can find me on Instagram. I'm very active and engaged there. You can follow me at the Biz Hippie and feel free to send me a message and reach out to me. I'd love to continue the conversation there and hear what was
Yeah,
your highlight or takeaway from this podcast episode. I also love to offer to podcast listeners a free 30-minute abundance activation session, and that's a
wonderful.
free session with me to go deeper in noticing where your current areas of scarcity, what is holding you back, what's the abundance that you want to step into, and to build a roadmap to make that your new reality. So if you want to have that conversation, I'd love to set up a session with you, and you can do that on my website, thebizhippie.com/activate.
Well, that is such a generous offer. I might take you up on that. That sounds like something we could all benefit from doing a check-in on, right? So thank you so much. We really are grateful for you being on the show today, sharing your real, raw story, and for the work that you're doing out there in the world. I think it's very beautiful offering. So thank you. And for those of you who are listening, if you have a story that you're ready to share, please reach out to me, Jen at jengulbrand.com. That's Jen with two N's, GULBRAND.com. And we will get you on this show and or include you in our next anthology of soul stories. And in the meantime, I would love you to all take that challenge that we put out for you today and really be mindful about the next exchange, the next conversation that you have with another human being today, to be present, to help them to really feel truly seen, heard, and valued, and see what happens. Thank you so much for being on our show today, Scarlett, and thank you all for listening. I hope you have a beautiful day.